Hey, everybody. New York City FC, after winning back-to-back home games, heading to Columbus now, and they'll do so without their leading goal scorer. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. It's a Monday edition of NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Hey, everybody. You're going to be able to hear one of those Roberto Abramowitz goal calls, and it's coming up shortly. That's Roberto. I'm Glenn. I've got a couple of calls in there, too, but none are more exciting than Roberto's. So,
I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know. They're good. They're fun.
It's fun to be there. It's fun to do it. I mean,
I've been thinking. Every now and then I am. Pardon?
How privileged are we to do what we're able to do?
Yeah, no, it's
seriously.
Very cool. No, live broadcast. I mean, growing up as a kid, I wanted to play second base for the Yankees. If I couldn't, I wanted to broadcast Yankee games. So I can't do that.
You're close. Apparently. You're at Yankee Stadium.
I'm in the right ballpark. So, no, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we back-to-back home wins. Very exciting. All this 10th anniversary stuff. You know, first ever game played, that matching that date. Then the first ever game played at Yankee Stadium and home, matched that date with the same two opponents, and victories in both, or for Orlando and now New England. And so New England, oh boy, New England. So last year they began the season 4 losses and a draw in their first 5 games. In their first 4 games this year, they have a draw and 3 losses. I mean, man, when you get off to a really poor start, it makes it tough. Although you hear some critics or some people who will suggest, yes, well, in MLS, you're going to have a high point of the season, you're going to have a low point of the season. So if you start out low, hopefully the high one comes shortly thereafter. That's what happened for New York City last year. Remember, they won 8 out of 9 after a struggling start, and that was enough to get them into the playoffs, really, when, down the stretch of the season, it wasn't quite as effective. We're in the summer in there. It got a little dicey. Yeah.
No, because they finished strong after they lost at Montreal, which didn't allow them to go to 4th place. So
that's not finishing strong. But nonetheless, the game, and then beat Nashville 3-1 in a game where Nashville could have scored 5. I didn't think the end of the year was that particularly good, but then you get into, anything can happen in the playoffs. So you go from there.
Absolutely.
Beating Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, I think the jury's still out on them. But let's get to this game. So, Roberto, you go back to the Orlando game. You're up. You're up 1-0, and then Orlando ties it in the 69th minute. This is after back-to-back games where you've conceded late goals and lost points, and you're thinking, but 2 minutes later, Hannes Wolf gets the game winner, and it's 2-1. You beat Orlando City. Now let's go to this most recent game. Own goal in the 26th minute. It's Thiago Martins. Here's our call on the English side.
Eye on the right, a couple of yards from the near touchline. Curls a beautiful ball in, and an own goal off of Thiago Martins. The half volley attempted clearance shanked into the goal past Matt Freese. Brandon Byatt had a lot of whip on it. A difficult one to deal with for Martins, and all he could do was put his head up into the air in frustration and now needs to recover.
What do players say, coaches say, when you're trying to clear a ball that's coming across the top of the 6-yard box? Try and meet it with the broad surface of your foot and don't swing at it. There's pace on the ball anywhere. Just strike through the back of the ball, to the middle third of the ball. He really swings at it. It skips up in front of him. It hits his shin pad and goes absolutely careening past Matt Freese. Nothing Freese can do about this.
I thought that was pretty good on Matt's part, who played.
Oh, Matty's great.
Matt,
because he explains what you should do in that situation. I mean, he was a defender. He knows. And
he played over 600 games in England professionally. So yeah,
yes.
as a central back. But that was going to be my a point to add on to it. But
did I steal your thunder? I'm sorry.
I don't care about thunder. I just care
but
about.
I got to tell you, it was a spectacular own goal, and it looked even prettier by the fact of the way that Matt Freese dove for it. I mean, it's if you're going to have an own goal, that's a spectacular own goal.
And for golfers in the audience, I use the word shank, and that was absolutely what happens when you shank a golf shot. It goes goes right off the other way in a different direction than you would hope. So here you are, 26 minutes in, and you're down a goal. And for New England, it was their first goal of the season, and they didn't even score it. So, I mean, you give Brandon Bye a little credit because he really put a good service in there, one that was difficult to deal with defensively. But still, as Matty described, there's one way to do that. And you can't swing your leg at those kinds of things. Anyway, so now you're down a goal. Let's get to the tying goal.
Wait, hold on. Before we do that, can we give it a little bit of context here on the goal? So it was the 12th own goal in New York City FC history, and it broke a three-way tie of having two own goals. That was also with Sebastian Ibeaga and Frederick Briant. And so now, sadly for Thiago Martins, he now is the leader in that category with 3 own goals, and it was the first own goal for New York City since 2023. And you remember who scored the last one, I presume? Do you remember?
No.
He's a starting right back in the Netherlands right now.
Serginho Dest?
No, Richard Ledesma.
I know.
Richard Ledesma against Charlotte in the 74th minute in a 3-2 loss.
There's only been, yes, I remember that one too. But there's only been one own goal. The one that always sticks out to me is when Sean Johnson essentially kicked the ball into his own net at Minnesota. That was Minnesota. A 3-3 draw. That was interesting because at the time the heat was on Dome Torrent, and going into that because it was 5 games without a win to start the season. Speaking of which, with what happened, what's going on with New England last year, and now 4 without a win this year. But that's the own goal I always remember. And Martins with 3. Yes, I appreciate you sharing that from Sean in the statistical side of things. And that's you're like you said. I remember
it adds context.
I remember Ibiaga's, and in that same game, Eber, and it was against Cincinnati. The final score was, I think, 6-2 or 5-2 in favor of
5-2, I think, yeah.
And both Cincinnati goals were own goals. Eber had a hat trick because he scored 2 for New York City and 1 for Cincinnati. But go ahead.
Exactly. I do remember that. So a couple of more things. So New England, or a little bit of work on their own, that way snapped 352 minutes without a goal. That goes back to last season.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So I don't know if they count that as a shot or not, but New England only had 2 shots on goal the whole game.
It can't be counted as a shot because it wasn't on target. I mean, Brandon Bye, the ball would not have gone in had it not deflected off of Martin. So it's not a shot. They had 1 shot on target somewhere along the line. I don't even remember it.
There's 2 according to the stats. One of them I remember, which is the one that Matt Freese put his hand down near his ankle and he stopped.
Oh, yeah. That was good. Yeah, that was good.
That was a really good one.
That was a close range
shot. Who hit that one? It wasn't. It was Ganago. Ganago got into the box and hit that low, and Matt Freese was in the right place at the right time, and he made a pretty nice save on that. That was the one I remember. I don't actually remember the second one.
Well, FOTMob has him for 1 save. So we get different stats from different folks. But anyway, so that was New England was boy. I don't know what I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they were not good. I'll just say that. And
they're not a good team.
New York City. You always give credit to the team that wins the match and maybe controls a good portion of the match. That they're playing well, but oh my goodness, it's just not good. Not good. So it's
not good. It's not good at all. I mean, they don't have much, and then they have guys that are injured, which doesn't help. Campana got hurt in the 10th minute in their last game, and he's got a hamstring injury, and we don't know how far, how long it is going to be for him to come in. Urruti didn't exactly do much. I mean, in this game, he had 1 shot during the whole. Obviously, it wasn't on goal. So. They work hard, but there's a severe lack of talent with the exception of Carlos Hill, who is extremely frustrated. Did you see him at the end of the game?
No.
Okay, so at the end of the game, he was like almost inconsolable about how frustrated he was about the fact that they've lost, and several players went up to him. He didn't want to even deal with it. He was just absolutely frustrated. And I keep on looking at him and the passes that he can do and the thing, because it seemed like everything dangerous, aside from the cross from Brandon By that turned into a goal, it seemed like everything dangerous that came out of New England was Carlos Hill. And I keep on thinking, he'd look really good in blue.
He plays the right position, and you can trade and give cash. Yeah. Come up with the cash. Where's Claude? Doesn't he have some cash?
He put what was it, 150 million in. So, but I don't know how much they can use that for players. But here's the thing: he's not the type of player that New York City would immediately go and get, right? But when you look at New York City and the way they are, and a 10 being, such an important position, and a position of need for New York City, he's 32 years old. So it's not exactly that he's old. And you've got Maxi Morales, who's 38. And we were having this conversation on Twitter earlier this week with Corey, one of the supporters of the team, and some other supporters. And I was just thinking, it wouldn't be terrible for New York City to have him, because this way you don't have to, abuse physically Maxi Morales, who's 38 years old. And for as well as he's playing and as important as he is to the club and everything, you're going to wind up just exhausting him, and you need him to be, a good contributor to this team, at the end of the season and in the playoffs. Yep. So, if New England's selling, I'm inquiring. Yeah.
No, the whole Maxi thing is real obvious. He's not playing 90 minutes a game all year. You have to have a 10. They have to. Are you going to rely on Hannes Wolf to push him in there? Are you going to ever give Carrizo a chance? Are you going to what was the other put Johnny Shore in and play this 4-3-3 without a 10, or play twin strikers and play without a 10?
Yeah,
look here. Pascal Janssen wants a 6 who can control the game and wants a 10 who can make the game. And I just, I don't disagree. And I hadn't even thought of it, Roberto, but why not for a stopgap the rest of the year buy Carlos Hill? But rather than constantly be concerned with always having to bring in a player that you could develop and sell off, because you got to have a couple of other players like a Hill in there, don't you?
There's got to be a balance. And, somebody mentioned the other day that there used to be a balance, and there still is a balance right now. Of course, they haven't brought anybody in this year, and so obviously, a lot of the fans are wondering what's going on and if that's the only model that they really have. But obviously, Monsef Bakrar, when they brought him in, he wasn't a teenager. They brought him in as, who they hoped to be a solid number 9. Didn't quite work out. And he's going to get a chance, and he's going to get a chance this weekend. You brought in Alonso Martinez. He wasn't exactly a spring chicken either. I think, what is he, 26 years old? Alonso Martinez right now.
I think that's right.
So, so you look at him. He's not exactly, somebody who you're looking to do that with. Although you could, he's still, young enough, but he's not a Julian Fernandez or an Ojeda or an Ilinic, right? So you've got all those.
But if he scores 25 goals this year and scores 15 in the first half of next year, he could be sold in the summer to somebody.
I get that, and they'd look to do that. But there's always been my point being, there's always been a balance. They bring in all these type of guys that they try to buy young and develop and sell, and then you also have like a core group of veterans, Hannes Wolf being another one, let's say, that they bring in, to be leaders and obviously to contribute on the field. Yeah.
All right. Well, so we're both in agreement. Carlos Gil would look good in a New York City uniform, and he'd probably be a little less frustrated, as well. But I don't. Who knows if it's a possibility? But we
have no idea if New England is looking to sell him or not. But
for the right price, talks. Everybody's available for the right price.
Money talks.
So New England. The other thing I want to. So they're down 2-1 in this game. And over the final 30-plus minutes, they didn't have a shot attempt. I mean, that's another example. And I wanted to give a shout-out to Keaton Parks. He had 2 shots, both on goal, including that one off the corner that was saved nicely by Ivicic. It was a good shot, forced that save. But I think Keaton Parks, he looks like a different player to me. And what I mean by that, and that's in a good way. I mean, he's forging his way. He's powerful. He looks more powerful this year. He's got more of a bite in some way, which is necessary in the midfield. So I really like the way he's playing. I just think he's been really valuable in the first 4 games.
He's been fantastic. He's been one of the best players on New York City FC. He had 45 passes and he completed 91% of them. And he covered a lot of distance. He covered almost 7.5 miles. He had 59 touches total. He had 2 shots, and one of them was actually one of them was a header too. So he's been everywhere.
Well, that's what I just described. It was off a corner kick, and he redirected header that was saved. Let's get on. So, all right, so we're in agreement on Parks here. So a lot of agreement tonight. Let's go to. So we talked about Hannes Wolf.
You seem concerned about that. That we're in agreement here.
We talked about Hannes Wolf earlier, and we've talked a lot about Hannes Wolf over the last, year. In terms of productivity or lack thereof. On commentary, I said I thought that was the best game he's played in a New York City uniform. This one against New England. But before the game, after the pregame with Pascal Janssen, you were sitting here and you heard these comments. So this clip is going to be Pascal Janssen. We're talking about Hannes Wolf, and he uses this catch-up reference, which you'll get because it's coming off him scoring the game-winning goal, and then the call of his assist on the very important game to goal to equalize against New England. So here it is. Roll that one, Shane, please.
Told by a former colleague of mine, it works like a bottle of ketchup. Once it starts flowing, it keeps on flowing, and hopefully that is the case with Hannes and all our attacking players for that matter. But for Hannes especially, when you mentioned, like you did just now, 20 games without a goal, that's not very productive. But on the other hand, the focus is to win games, and how we do this is important. But he would like to score more goals and get more assists. That's very clear.
But here comes Hannes Wolf on the counter for New York City. Plays it to his right, and a shot and a goal for Julian Fernandez. He's onside. It comes from Hannes Wolf. Wolf had 2 options. He went to his right to the Argentinian who scored against New England last year in a 2-0 win. The goal this year makes it 1-1.
The counter-attack is one of true quality and more importantly of true speed. Hannes Wolf carries the ball and in a straight line as well, and the ball's through into Julian Fernandez. We talk about pass appreciation, Glenn. It's absolutely on the money. He does not need to break stride. He does not need to touch the ball again. Instead, all he needs to do is pass the ball into the corner of the net. Nothing Ivicic can do about this. It's a terrific counter-attack. Look up counter-attack in the coaching manual, and that will be there, Glenn. Terrific finish.
All right, the old coaching manual. Those are the. You ever go to? Did you ever play basketball or watch basketball practice? They do a lot of transition, just like that, where it's 3v3 and the different movement off of there. And Ojeda did a good job of kind of getting himself a little wider, opened up a gap to provide a second choice. And Wolf obviously made the correct choice at the correct time, which has been part of his issue too. Maybe the timing of all these things, right?
Right. Well, this time he didn't have to shoot, so and it was a perfect pass. I mean, but the way the whole thing developed from where he got it, and then he ran straight at the defense, and he pulls the defense a little bit towards him. I mean, the fact that Julian Fernandez basically runs box to box on this, Will Sands can't keep up. The pass is just perfect. I mean, the weight of the pass, where he puts it. And Julian Fernandez finished with his right foot and didn't think about it. Let's remember that when Julian Fernandez came here, he didn't want to touch the ball with his right foot. It almost felt like it was a grenade that if he touched with his right foot, it would explode. And he would do everything with his left. He's matured. He's gotten better. He's developed it a little bit better. He never thought about it. He got the ball and he went straight to kick it into goal, and it was perfectly placed. There's a lot of maturity there. There's a lot of growth there. And, you love to see that from Julian Fernandez, who basically almost went a year without a goal. He had scored goals in consecutive games back in April of last year, and then nothing until that.
Well, I'm telling you, look, to ask him to have Gabriel Peck numbers would be too much of a consideration, I think. But he has qualities that are very, very similar to Peck, having watched both of them a lot. And because Peck is just thrilling to watch. And Fernandez has those qualities. And he's putting in the effort on the defensive side because he knows he won't play if he doesn't.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm pretty stoked about his potential production value. And he's going to have to he's got to pick it up this weekend in Columbus. Alonso Martinez is going to try to beat Belize with Costa Rica in the Gold Cup qualification because he was called in. He's not going to be around this weekend, folks. No Alonso Martinez at Columbus. So another great international break. 28 of the 30 MLS teams are playing. And we'll get to that a little later. I want to ask you a couple of things about that, but that's going to be in the Kicking It Around segment, Roberto. So hold your thought on that. But let's hear your call on the game-winning goal, and it's off a corner, kind of a recycled thing, but it's off a corner. First, Roberto, and then Shane. I don't know if you can play them back to back, and then you can do mine. If you can play them back to back, go do it, man.
Pero balón a la olla, buscando el primer palo y despeja la defensa de New England. Abren el balón aquí para Trapito. Adelante para Wolf. De nuevo Ojeda. Keaton Parks lo puede tirar. Ahora sí. ¡Qué parada! ¡Remate! ¡Gol! 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 ¡Qué tiro de Martínez! ¡Qué tiro de Martínez! Tercero del año. New York City arriba. 2-1.
12 yards up the line in support. It curls. It does not get over the first defender, Ganago, and he leaps into the air and then snaps the header outside of the penalty box. But New York City has it back with Wolf. Now to Ojeda, now to Parks. Hesitation move. Here's the shot. There's the save. And the follow. It's 2-1 New York City. And Alonso Martinez, his third goal of the season in 4 games. He's in position for it to be the game winner for New York City FC.
And it was.
It was. You didn't let Matty go in on this one. I was waiting to hear his.
I had it covered. I had it covered, but it was actually not a particularly well taken corner by Maxey. They had a near post that Ganago. He was just on the edge of the 6 in a zonal position and just headed it clear. But not far enough, man. And that's why you can't turn off. And then New York City did some pretty good stuff in tight quarters there at the top of the area,
How unlucky is Ivicic that he makes such a brilliant save, puts it where he thinks is really going to be a safe zone, and Martinez just happens to be standing right there, and his reaction is the power that he got. He hit that so sweetly. I mean, it's like it's a dream goal. It's just a dream goal.
I bet you if we talk to Alonso, let's remember to ask him this. If he had a basement growing up, or some indoor area, with where he had maybe like a little pad or something where he could practice those sidewinding volleys, I bet you he's taken a zillion just like that. It sure looked like it, man. He was pretty comfortable zipping that one in.
The form was perfect. It's just it's a candidate for goal of the week. There are a couple of really nice goals in MLS this week, but that is candidate for goal of the week for sure.
All right, so New York City with a nice 2-1-1 record. They're in what position in the league? 7th or 6th? I can't remember. So let me look it up real quick. So New York City's in 7th, but you've got 4 teams tied with 7 points. These early tiebreakers are pretty meaningless at this point. And Columbus, who is the opponent on Saturdays, in the 3rd position. So how about some fun facts about Columbus? First of all, they tied San Diego at San Diego 1-1. Malde Amundsen, we're not going to see him. He's not going to be able to play against his former mates. He was red carded in the 60th minute. And it was after that when San Diego equalized to make it 1-1. So Columbus is, coming in off of that tie, but they haven't lost a game yet. So they're 2-0-2. They are one of 7 teams that are unbeaten through match day 4. Pretty interesting. One of them being San Diego. How about that? And you'll like this one, Roberto. Well, I don't know if you'll like it or not. This fun fact is a little disturbing. So the midfielder that scored the goal for San Diego, Ani Valakari, okay? And it's a great goal. Scored it off I think it was a corner. It was a crossing ball or a corner. I can't remember, but it was a headed goal, and it was fantastic. So he's in the record books. He has scored the first San Diego goal at Snapdragon Stadium. That's what everybody's waiting to see, who was going to get that. In a November 2024 interview, however, Ani, talking to the Helsingin Sanomat, that's a subscription paper online publication in Finland, sparked controversy with his positive comments on Andrew Tate, implying that the media has painted a false picture of him. Anyway, we'll just leave it at that. That's out of Wikipedia, but the article is there. I kind of clicked on it. There is this story there, and anyway, hopefully he can get past that someday, and we can all just forget that was even said. But that's just a little nutty.
I never thought that wasn't on my bingo card that Andrew Tate was going to be part of.
I know.
The New York City Views, please.
The self-proclaimed misogynist and more. So anyway, what else can we say about Columbus? Here, back to Columbus, the opponent. 61.3% possession. That's number 1 in the league. And couple that with they have conceded the fewest shots in the league this year too, Roberto. So I know you're not a possession guy, but one of the reasons they've conceded the fewest shots is because they have the ball a lot more than their opponent. And you don't concede shots if you don't have the ball unless you give up an own goal in the 26th minute in this most recent game. Unless it's an own goal, the other team can't score if you have it. So that's one of the great things about possession. So really,
I'm looking to see who they played now. All right. So they started the season with a 4-2 victory over Chicago. And then they beat New England 1-0 in New England. They lost 3-0 to LAFC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Then they went and tied Houston 0-0. Lost to LAFC or beat LAFC 2-1, but wound up being eliminated, and then tied San Diego. So their wins their wins here in MLS are against Chicago, New England, and Houston.
Well, they've only won twice, so that's impossible. They have 2 wins.
So what it says.
They have 2 wins and 2 ties. It's okay.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to figure out why. I mean,
don't worry about it. The LAFC games are significant because those were CONCACAF Champions Cup, and they got eliminated by LAFC there. So they're not, Well, watch that San Diego game before Amundsen goes out. It's a really I sat and watched the game today. I usually don't get the opponent in this early, but I wanted to since we were coming on. And it's just two teams that want to play soccer. So if you like a good football match, it's a good one to watch. Even though there aren't a plethora of goals, it was pretty entertaining. So Columbus, again, one of the 7 teams undefeated in MLS.
By the way, I have that right. They've played 4 games plus 2 games in Champions Cup.
Okay, but
I have that right.
All right. You said they have 3 wins. They have 2 wins and 2 ties in MLS. They're in the number 3 position. Anyway.
That yes.
And then the teams without a win are the LA Galaxy, Sporting KC, Houston in the West, Montreal, New England, and Toronto in the East. 6 teams in MLS don't have a win through 4 games. Woohoo!
Yeah, must be fun.
That is.
But then again, New York City should know about that because they've started some seasons pretty poorly. Last year didn't start very well, and then they made it up.
Yeah. Now we have an MLS player of the match day, and it's a kid that went to St. John's. And Roberto, I sat with him. It's Tani Aluwashei. That's Aluwashei. It doesn't look like that, but that's the way it's pronounced. And he's a forward for Minnesota. He scored a brace in their 3-3 draw with Sporting KC. That was a hell of a game, too, because Minnesota was up 3-0 at Kansas City at halftime. And Sporting KC came back and tied at 3-3, which, there's something to be said for that.
100%. Good on Peter Vermees, by the way. I mean, that shows that that team is killing themselves for him.
Jersey strong, baby. Now, in this preseason sit-down with Tani, I mentioned St. John's. The first thing he said was, this was right after St. John's beat UConn in men's basketball. And the first thing he said was, number 9 in the country, baby. So he's still into the St. John's thing. And but I talked to him about going on the college route. So, Shane, this is him talking about playing at St. John's.
I mean, my first year was really difficult, couple injuries, not a single game with the first team. If you asked me 3 years ago if I'd be here and I'm playing for my national team, starting for Minnesota or whatever it may be, probably would say, okay, maybe it might take me a couple more years till I was there, but I think everything happens for a reason, and I've done a good job of, putting my body of work on show and just doing my part, whether it's training my bodies to not be as injured as I usually was, and that means strengthening the way I eat, everything like that, and the work I've put in on the field. I think I've done a good job.
That's interesting. So you think that's a part of being more fit, is that you're taking better care of yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, if you went to college, so you know how we eat in college. It was just whatever you could afford, you were eating. So I wouldn't say
I had the cheese crackers with peanut butter in them with milk. That was my breakfast every morning.
Yeah. We had ramen at least 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah, sometimes daily.
What did you eat in college, Roberto? Boy, that sounded familiar, man. Oh my goodness. I
lived at home during college. I went to Brooklyn College, and I lived at home. I didn't live on campus.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't, but we did have, a couple of restaurants that I used to frequent.
We're not talking restaurants, baby. We're talking vending machines
outside
here.
Of campus, and then there was a place called Kosher Country inside of
We're talking
campus.
Vending machines. We're talking vending machines, man. I was away from my mama and dad. My dad didn't cook. I was away from my mama, very far away. And it's but the point there is, when you're in college, even if you're an athlete, they can't control what you're eating 24 hours a day, so you have to be wise.
It's not like the pros.
No. And he's also, he mentioned his national team. Well, he's Canadian. And he's got 9 caps now. And I asked him about playing for Jesse March. So let's play that. We don't have that one? Maybe I didn't send that one. No, you don't have that. I guess I didn't send. Well, playing for Jesse March, he likes the relationship because Jesse tells him like it is. He's very upfront, and if there's a problem, he lets him know. If he's doing well, he lets him know. And what Tani said is that he likes that kind of a coach. And he should. He had Dave Mazur at St. John's. Credit to Mazur. And he gave Mazur a shout out, too, in this interview. So MLS player of the match day, St. John's boy.
Yeah, and they have a tough game. They're going to play Mexico up in SoFi.
Yeah.
After the U.S. plays Panama.
So I am not going to be able to watch these games on Thursday, but I'm going to tell because I'm going to be in this thing called
You're
the
going to be
Sphere.
dead.
I'm going to be in this thing called the Sphere in Vegas at that time. So I'm going to have to watch later. And then I talking about Minnesota, New York City plays Minnesota at Yankee Stadium on April 6th, the next home game for New York City after the 2 road games, first Columbus, and then it's in Atlanta. So this is a pretty this is an interesting stretch. Minnesota is an improved team under Eric Ramsey, and then on the road, Columbus and Atlanta, 2 tough places, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So yeah, it's not going to be easy sledding for New York City, which right now could use some reinforcements. But I'll tell you something: the kids are going to get a run, and I don't think that that's a terrible thing. I mean, we've seen Johnny Shore, start 2 games in a row. Nico Cavallo started the last game, then he got injured. We don't know exactly what went on, called the team. They don't know yet, or at least they're not saying of how serious the injury is or what the injury is. So we'll just have to wait to see on Thursday what coach says on that. But, Kevin O'Toole is going to be back. But the lack of depth that New York City has right now is giving an opportunity to some of these really, really young players. I don't think that's a terrible thing. I really want to see Maximo Carrizo. I want to see him get a chance. So maybe that will happen in Columbus.
He's got to earn it. If he's,
I'm telling
you, if he provides enough information in practice, Maximo Carrizo, for Pascal Janssen, he will play.
Yes.
To me, it's up to the kid. I don't know what we see once a week, and we see very little. And we didn't see him last week because he was playing for the 2 team on Friday. I don't think we maybe
he
was
played for the 2
team
team on Friday. Played 90 minutes for the 2 team on Friday. Was on the bench for New York City FC on Saturday.
He played 60 minutes in that 2 games.
60. I'm sorry. Yeah. I apologize.
No, that's all right. I just remember looking it up because I wondered. Well, he played 60. Will he be on the bench? He was on the bench, so that's good. But I'm saying I would bet he will get his debut when Pascal Janssen feels he has earned it, and earning it through not just how hard you go at it, but your effectiveness in training. So
I get that. I fully get that. But I mean, these are opportunities because especially with Andres Perea out, then, it's sort of hard to replace Maxi Morales unless you try to pull Wolf into the 10. And I don't know how great that is, although obviously the pass that he gave Fernandez was, from that position, and it was sensational. But, they have a tough game coming up in Columbus right now. So we'll have to see what happens there. Looking forward to it.
We also have a question about any update on Tavon Gray's injury. No, I think we're not going to learn anything until Thursday at this point, as far as Cavallo and Gray. And
right.
And then KP said, I thought these podcasts were on Thursdays. Well, I'm going to be in the Sphere on Thursday, and I'm not going to be able to join Roberto.
So who are you watching on Thursday? It's the Grateful Dead, right? Or whatever incarnation of them.
Yes, it's the Dead and Company. Bob Weir is still the front man, and
wow.
He's still around. I think he's 74, 75. But the lead guitarist is John Mayer. And I'll tell you, my kids were raised properly. They're both Grateful Dead fans, and they love the music. But they both took me to a Dead and Company show because I wasn't too into going, and I didn't even know John Mayer was took over for Jerry Garcia in essence, and he is unbelievable. He is a great, and I can't give you enough greats in terms of guitarist. And
yes.
then his voice really fits the.
Well, that's good because I saw John Mayer in concert in Central Park, and it should have been John Mayer.
Oh wow! Well,
yeah, it wasn't that exciting. Every song was like slow, and I mean, it got to the point where like everybody was just like talking, and it was like background music.
Well, I'm telling you.
But I'm glad that he's doing well with the Dead.
Oh, he is ripping.
He's come back to life with the Dead. I like that.
And I've heard this, a lot has been said about the Sphere by now.
Oh yeah,
but it's
that's
like
going to be incredible.
Yeah, the number of microphones that they have in this, like, and it's like you're surrounded by it. I forget what the number of microphones were. But the most
Microphones or
amazing part of the
speakers?
story was that they had the whole thing set up, and they played the first concert, and they didn't like the audio, so they tore. I don't know how much money they spent, but they took the entire audio out, microphones all over this place. They took it out.
You're talking
and put
about
it in
speakers, right? Not microphones?
yeah, no, speakers. I'm sorry, speakers. Yeah, I'm talking
Okay.
about speakers.
Maybe that was the problem, is that they hung microphones
they put
instead of
they put
speakers,
microphones
and
in
it
there.
didn't sound good.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just realizing John Mayer's a great guitarist, okay? I'm getting yelled at now.
Yeah, well, his
All right.
concerts are still meh, but I mean, he is a great guitarist. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I'm about to do some yelling myself. Let's go kick it around, Roberto.
All right, let's go. What are you going to bitch about now?
It's the international break, everybody. And what does that mean? Almost everybody in MLS will be playing, including Atlanta United, who will be missing 8 players from their first team, including 6 who have been regular starters.
That man.
Ta-da! And they're playing at Cincinnati. So here we go again. And I think this might be, when we had the discussion last week about, switching to the international calendar and schedule for MLS, which is being discussed. There's no question that it's being contemplated and could happen by as early as 2026 or 7. So, and this is one of the reasons why I think it should happen, because an international break in the FIFA calendar, you have to release your players. You don't have a choice. You can't say, hey, we got a big game coming up. And Alonso Martinez, who has been involved in 5 of the 6 New York City goals. He scored 3, Roberto, but you'll remember he drew the foul that led to Micha Ilinic's goal from Maxi Morales on the free kick. He drew the foul, and then he scored later. And then he took the shot against Orlando that was saved, bounced to Fernandez, who got it to Hannes Wolf for the game-winning goal against Orlando City. And he had scored earlier in that game. So he's been involved in 5 of the 6 goals, and he ain't going to be around in Columbus. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant loss. It's not 8 players. It's not 6 starters, but it's a key figure.
Especially when you describe it like that. I mean, yeah, you can lose 8 players, but I mean, how effective are those players? You presume they're very effective because of the fact that they're on national teams. So, but the argument is that for New York City, I mean, he's a must play. He's got to play. And so they're going to miss him. And this is where Bakkar's got to step up.
Bakkar has to step up.
He doesn't necessarily have to score a goal, but if New York City does score, he's got to be involved.
Well, and I mentioned Julian Fernandez a little bit earlier, and Hannes Wolf, who has played back-to-back good games, back-to-back strong games, very strong game in this most recent win against New England. And those 3 they've got to play well, man. They've got to be dangerous, and they've got to make things happen.
So what are the chances? So I have a question for you, Coach. What are the chances that New York City calls up Seymour Reed to be the backup center forward on Saturday?
Let me see. I'm just trying to go through who else might be on. Well, I don't think it's out of the question. If it's a choice of a third goalkeeper or Seymour Reed, then maybe Seymour Reed gets on. And Seymour Reed has scored 3 of the 4
They had
goals
that choice last week, and they went with 3 goalies. And so
yeah. All right. They might not deem him. Sometimes you just give a kid experience, the experience to just sit there and watch. That's one thing. Go on the road with that sort of crowd. Even though you're not playing, it's still slightly intimidating because you're only 17 years old. It's an interesting thought, Roberto. Now, before we leave this, the EFL Championship, all right, this is, if you're going to keep this calendar and you're going to play, and 28 of the 30 teams are playing on Saturday or Sunday, if you're going to do this, come up with the EFL Championship rule. If a team has 3 or more absent, Atlanta United, for instance. I haven't calculated all the teams. I just saw that Atlanta was down 8 players. I was like, oh my God. If a team has 3 or more absent, they can request a postponement of their match. Now, why is that not considered?
We don't know if it is, by the way. We don't know if it is.
What?
I don't know if it isn't that they could have asked for a postponement or not.
No, the only thing you can ask for is before the schedule's released, you can ask for some relief. I forget what it is.
Because they move games all the time when New York, when they're playing Champions League and things like that, or Leagues Cup, and they advance.
There's no formal request that if you have 3 or more gone, you can't request to
No,
MLS
not if there's 3 more gone, but if they're going to be affected by the fact that they've advanced, let's say, within Leagues Cup. I remember last year that during Leagues Cup, I think it was LAFC, they moved games for them so they'd be ready for Leagues Cup. They've moved games, so I mean, there's no fast rule like what you're explaining, but it has happened that they've moved games to accommodate teams, but it's mostly
not in this case
to get a competitive advantage in an international tournament.
What you're saying is that there's precedence to move games. So
Yes.
why not consider something like this? Because this is pretty lenient, 3 or more, that's, like like New York City wouldn't be eligible because they're only losing Martinez. So as far as we know, I haven't heard anybody else.
I haven't either.
Let's just say it's Martinez. They only lose 1. Well, you can't request a postponement. But Atlanta United, damn straight.
And I get it, and they should, because they shouldn't be at a competitive disadvantage like this. I mean, that is a horrific competitive disadvantage. And I mean, and they're coming off a very, very tough loss to Inter Miami, and they lost that game, in the 89th minute or the 90th minute with Fafa Picot with one of the slower shots I've ever seen go in, but it went in.
Yeah, that was interesting. All right, so I'm putting it out there publicly to those who may be listening in the offices of Major League Soccer and on the competition side of things, like Nelson Rodriguez, for instance.
Yes.
How about considering if you lose 3 players or more, you can request a postponement? It's a request. It's not guaranteed either, but at least you can request, and then the league can look at it and see if they can make a movement, because you're also impacting another team. So I understand that part too. But if you're going to keep this schedule like this, let's do that. Now, how about let's bring in Phil Neville. So Portland tied the Galaxy 1-1 at home over the week. So the Galaxy still haven't won a game, the defending MLS Cup champions. And Christian Ramirez scored in the 81st minute to tie this game 1-1. What happened along the way that upset Phil is there was he felt like one of his players was stomped, and he also felt like there was a handball, and VAR intervened. I guess a handball was called, and VAR intervened and overruled it, I think. Anyway, let's play the Phil Neville cut. He was in a particularly good mood after this game. I always like these.
Kamal's in a bad way. Wasn't given a foul, so that's okay. It's standard for the referees in this league. And Christian probably will have to go for a scan tonight. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's it.
Did you have a chance to talk to the referee about that?
No, the referee told our captain it was a penalty. Yeah, the referee told our captain it was a penalty, but because Ari Lassiter had the shot, he played the player. So I have nothing to say. I don't want to get in trouble. I have a lot of respect for the referees, but he told our captain it was a penalty, and that's probably why we were really emotional. We're really angry, because this is not good enough on any level. I came in here after the Vancouver game. I took it, 2 horrific decisions in that game, and I think today just tops off probably one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in the MLS that I've been involved in, purely and simply because it was a penalty. So maybe we just don't invest in VAR and give that money to charity.
There you go. I got that wrong. It was Christian Paredes who he was referring to, was inside the area, got taken down, and the referee let the ball, let the play go on because Ariel Lassiter to the right ended up getting a shot, but he got wiped out. It's pretty obvious. VAR did not intervene, so you'll always take a penalty rather than play on and maybe get a shot. A penalty, you're supposed to score 80% of the time. A shot like that, it's probably in the 25 percentile. So
yeah, that's really weird. Normally what referees do is that they give them play on, and if it doesn't go in anything, if it doesn't give them really an advantage, then you bring it back and say, okay, it was a foul and it's a free kick, or in this case, a penalty. So I'd have to re-see that. And
I rewatch it.
But
I got
to
I got to confuse. My introduction was poor because I got to confuse with another coach that had a problem with the stomping and the handball, and I can't remember. That was I think Caleb Porter from the game before New York City game. So that was Porter who was on the who began the cut by saying, "I'm not talking about the referees this year," and then for the next 90 seconds he talked about the referees. Oh, these poor coaches, man.
He's basically trying to, fake out the league. He's like, I'm not talking about coaches. The league turns off and doesn't listen, and then he kills himself.
New York City FC 2, Roberto. This is my favorite kit in the history of the New York City Football Club. Let's show the pigeon, Shane. Look at that. That's gorgeous. So
yeah.
The pigeon is being recognized, and now I am free to call the New York City Football Club the Pigeons, and I will. So I don't care what you think or say, Roberto. I don't care what anybody on the comments.
That's fine.
Chime in. I am referring to the New York City Football Club as the Pigeons. They put a pigeon on their sleeve a couple of years ago. Remember that? And then the upper part of the sleeve. And now it's actually one of the I think this might be the alternate kit. I'm not really sure, but it's a new kit that came out for the 2 team, and there you have it.
It looks really nice, I've got to say. And also it looks like that on the stadium there's going to be a pigeon design somewhere. So so that's good.
So let's just call them the Pigeons,
I
man.
still can't do it, but go knock yourself out.
All right, I think I'm going to go Pigeons.
It doesn't sound right. Las Palomas.
In closing, I interviewed a guy today.
Pigeons.
I interviewed a guy today, which was for the second time. The last one was 6 years ago. He wrote a book. His name's James Kerr, and he wrote a book called Legacy. He was embedded with the All Blacks. That's the New Zealand rugby team, and the culture surrounding that team and the story. There's a Netflix documentary on the All Blacks, which maybe folks have seen. Maybe you've read this book, Legacy. I'm telling you, no matter whether you're in business or coaching or you're a parent or this is a wonderful publication because it just really digs into, how you sacrifice the individual needs for the team. That's about one of the simple ways I can put it. But they have the All Blacks. They have 15 mantras, and this is how I'm closing it, Roberto.
15
mantras, and one of them is no dickheads. How great is that? So I'm talking to James Kerr, and he goes, we use dickhead. He's about after the 6th time. He goes, is it okay we're doing this? I said, yeah, man. It's not cursing. And what better description of who you don't want in your program than that, right?
Well, look at New York City FC. That's been one of their mantras. Either they've talked about it or they haven't. But the fact of the matter is that they have always a very, very solid locker room. There's very rarely, I can't say that there hasn't been any, but they're very few and far between. And that's not an accident. That's part of the reason sometimes that they don't bring in certain players because they just don't feel that he's going to mesh in the locker room because they want a certain type of player that's going to put team first over everything else.
The All Blacks say we have one captain, but 15 leaders. There's 15 players on a team. And they also have the motto, stab me in the belly, not in the back. And the idea there is don't take tell it to me straight. What's going on? And this is, everybody in the same locker area, it's like, it's this communal thing that is, it's fascinating, but it all makes sense. And of course the haka is their is what they're noted for. Before the game they come out and that intimidating thing they do.
It really is amazing. I love the haka. But look, Len, I mean, you're a coach. This is. I always feel that it's important for kids, especially, to play team sports because there's so many life lessons to learn there about working together with a group as opposed to trying to do things individually and the benefits that you can get out there. I really feel that it's very, very important in just your general education and your general advancement as a human being to be able to learn how to be able to be part of a group. And so to me, it's very, very important.
It's he used a Michael Jordan example with Phil Jackson, and Michael Jordan had won MVPs, but never a championship until Phil Jackson came along. And one of the things he said to Michael Jordan is, you need to be the hardest working player every day. And then he paused and then he followed it up by saying, and it can't even be close, because if your top player is giving every ounce of energy, or you're this guy he's the best in the world, then that the guy down at the end of the bench, he's got no choice, man. And the way the All Blacks do it is they have something called, and it's really cool. It's called Sweep the Sheds. What Sweep the Sheds is that at the end of practice, at the end of a game, the captain will get a veteran player. It doesn't matter. They got brooms in there and they clean their facility. They don't wait for somebody to come in and clean it. And once again, if the captain of the All Blacks, and these guys are revered like heroes over there, if the captain of the All Blacks picks up a broom and is starting to sweep the locker room, and you're the rookie, that's powerful, man. That is so powerful.
You can't just walk out and go, I'm going for drinks. I'll catch you later.
Yeah.
We'll be at the pub when you're done. Come find us.
I think the team we cover could learn from this. I don't know. I'm not saying that they don't comport themselves in this manner, but it would be really interesting to observe the 30 clubs in MLS and watch these guys on a daily basis and see how much humility and respect they have for the little things like that.
So I have a question for you. Have you watched Kobe Bryant videos, and not necessarily him talking, although there's a lot to glean there, but other people talking about Kobe Bryant and about the fact that he was obsessive about practice and what he did and how he figured out that he's practiced so much more that he's going to be so much better than everybody else because he's just done it more. And the fact that his first practice was at 4:00 in the morning and he practiced from 4 to 6. And then he went and he took a shower, then he ate breakfast, and then he practiced again, and then practiced with the team. So, I mean, he would do this constantly. And that says, it gave him, a huge advantage. And that was one of the reasons that he was one of the greatest players ever. There's a ton of videos, especially Instagram Reels and all that. If you have a team and you want to teach this sort of mentality, the Mamba mentality, and you have kids that you're teaching, or even yourself, if you want to push yourself to do better, go and watch these things. It's just like there's so much to learn and glean out of that.
No, and James Kerr, who wrote this book, Legacy, he pointed to that exact thing, Roberto, the same sort of thing. I mean, but the cultural stuff is interesting. I also brought up referees because the referee in rugby is treated a lot differently than the referee in soccer. And Thierry Henry, I don't know if you saw this clip on social media, and I played it during this interview with James Kerr, and it's a 60-second piece where he talks about how soccer can learn from rugby. And he's talking about the referees. And he said in rugby, the players don't go running over to the referee after a call that they're not sure about. The referee goes to them, and they know that the referee is going to explain a call that might not be particularly clear. So it's a little something. And we know some referees talk more than others when we watch Major League Soccer, for instance. But that's a little thing. And also, only the captains can speak. And I know we kind of have that now through IFAB, but that's been the case for a long time in rugby. The captains speak, and when you hear them mic'd talking to the referee, which is what happens, the respect is immense. There's no cursing, there's no pointing, gestures, all that stuff. And I think I agree with Thierry Henry, and I agree with you. And I'm going to encourage that everybody listens to this interview at some point. Maybe I'll have to put it out get it out from behind the paywall, even if I get permission to.
All right, that would be good. So let me add one more, okay, while we're at this. Soccer has a lot to learn from hockey as far as that's concerned. And I see this every time that, goals are scored. In soccer, when you score a goal, you go running away from your teammates. You go to where the fans are. You slide, and a lot of players do this. This is my name on the back of the shirt, right? And who scored the goal, right? Hockey's totally the other way. The minute that they score, they look for the guy who gave them the pass, and they do that. This was on you. You got me that goal. And then they go celebrate, and then they go to the bench, and they go and they touch fists with everybody on the bench. Yeah. Everybody's involved. And also, which is also why I also like the secondary assist, and also why I like the fact that they've got assist, and assist is worth the same thing as a goal as far as points are concerned. And the reason is that it helps foment team play, right? You get rewarded for making the right play, the right pass, and not doing something that might be selfish in some occasions, right? So I love the fact that they turn around and immediately congratulate the guy who made the pass. They celebrate with them. They would never get caught dead pointing at their name on the back of the shirt. It's they celebrate as a team. There's no individualism at all, and I think that that's a great lesson, and that there's a lot of that soccer can learn from hockey as far as that's concerned. And if I was teaching kids, right, if I was coaching kids, I would take them to hockey games all the time, and I would show them that all the time for them to learn how to play that way and be, more part of a team. And
how to fight. They can learn how to brawl.
That they do. Don't screw around with the Canadian national team. Don't go in on the goalie. Look, even the American national team is that way too. Don't go in and try to intimidate the goalie.
I heard everything that you said, and I think you do see players after they score go to the guy that assisted them. I know most of the time that maybe they'll sprint.
Yeah, it happens, but it's not often. Yeah, not enough.
All right, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right. Anything else on this? Let's see. The other my other interview is pretty interesting. I should mention this. His name's I don't know if you've seen this kid play yet. His name is Jose Kajima. He is starting in the midfield for DC United. It's his second year there, and he has a LinkedIn page. And he scored the game-winning goal in their only win of the season. DC United's unbeaten through 4. They got 3 ties at a win. He scored the game-winning goal. Great header. But it was a play where the defense was pulling out, and then he timed his run in behind. And on LinkedIn, he showed a clip of that he had seen before, that he had learned from this, and he had also had something similar in college. He went to Wake Forest. Played for this guy, Bobby Muse. And so he was taking what he learned in college, a play that happened in college, and then one he saw online, and he noticed it at that moment. And if you look at this goal, it's like perfectly how he described it. What a student of the game. So I spoke to him for like a half hour, Roberto. He was an unbelievable kid. And he's a kid. I think he's like 22 years old or 21 or something. But he's a coach in the making, and definitely a coach on the field, student of the game, whatever you want to say. But anyway, that's
awesome.
That's right.
That's awesome to see. I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
because you're paying attention and you're scouting and you're doing some self-scouting as well.
And before I did the interview, he had training. And you talked about Kobe Bryant. He had training. He said before he went to training, he watched. I don't know what game he was watching. Not his. He wasn't watching his game. He was watching some other game because he's just constantly watching. Anyway, it's pretty cool to when you have a kid that is into it that much. All right, Roberto. So we're on Saturday, and again, it's Saturday night, so it's 7:15 airtime. and 7:40 kickoff. This time, though, it'll be at lower.com field, New York City at Columbus. And trying to make it 3 in a row for the boys in blue.
Yeah, it's going to be a little chilly. I had done a little advanced scouting on the weather for the game. And according to the Weather Channel, temperatures are going to be in either the high 40s at kickoff. So, yeah, it's going to be 48, 49 degrees at kickoff in beautiful downtown Columbus.
All right. I'll see you then.
Absolutely. Have a great visit to Vegas. I'm sure the Sphere is going to blow your mind. It is a dead show, so careful with the what you eat and how you decide to go to a dead event, if you know what I mean.
Well, there won't be.
I mean, it might be that your broadcast on Saturday might be a little bit slower per se as far as the pacing is concerned, but it just absolutely might be very colorful.
Pretty certain there's no smoking in this facility, so and unless edibles have the way of.
What do you mean there's no smoking? Jesus Christ! I mean, I used to go to Madison Square Garden when I was a teenager, and it was like totally illegal to be able to smoke pot, and everybody was doing it. Are you kidding me? Illegal in this establishment.
I will report back to you, but I'm going to say this is a new facility. It's policed in a different way. I don't, but we'll see. I'll let you know.
It's a dead event.
Ripple, Bertha, here we go. All right, for Roberto, I'm Glenn. It was wonderful to have you with us, and look forward to talking to you again soon on NYCFC Views Live.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.